Amendment to the U.S. Constitution gave women the right to vote. On this anniversary, a militant minority of women's liberationists was on the streets across the country to demand equal employment for women, care centers for mothers, child abortions for anyone who wants them, and general equality between women and men.
All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Just a little bit, hey, baby, just a little bit. Just a little bit, mister, just a little bit. I ain't gonna do you wrong while you gone. I ain't gonna do you wrong 'cause I don't wanna.
Gloria Steinem was a leader, and her legacy continues today. She was a leader in the women's movement. She created Ms. Magazine. She led women to believe that they could do more than the little women's jobs that were in place at the time. She made women realize that reproductive rights were their own rights, to be controlled by nobody but themselves. Gloria Steinem led a movement that is still changing the world today. Before the second wave of feminism, women were paid less for equal jobs. Abortion rights were not granted. It was known as a men's world and had been in the course of history.
You know, they say a woman's place is in the home, and I suppose as long as she's in the home, she might as well be in the kitchen.
For now, ladies and gentlemen, we will know the name of our new Miss America.
Yes, sirree, boys, step right out. How much am I offered for this #1 piece of prime American property? She sings in the kitchen. She doesn't talk back. In fact, she doesn't talk at all unless you want her to. And then she only says what you're programmed her to say. Yes, sirree, you can use it to push your politics, or push your war. She's the girl back home every man is fighting for.
This led to women questioning their role in social and economic aspects. By year 1960, she moved to New York City. This would be the place she would find her love for freelance writing. Through her journalist and freelance writing career, she wrote pieces for Glamour, Vogue, New York Times, Cosmo, and McCall's. Most of her freelance pieces were on women's fashion, sewing, cooking, and caretaking.
I was assigned things about fashion and food and makeup and babies, or the low point of my life, textured stockings. When I delivered the articles to my editor at the Sunday Times magazine, he generally gave me a choice, like either I could go to a hotel room with him in the afternoon or mail his letters on the way out. Needless to say, I mailed the letters, but I just assumed you had to put up with this. I don't think I understood the need for a movement until I went to cover an abortion hearing.
A few years later in her freelance writing career, she had to attend an abortion hearing and write about it. This is where she realized that what she had gone through, multiple women had gone through, and this is the start of her feminist career. In 1963, she wrote her first piece on feminist issues, A Bunny's Tale. It was written for Show Mag by Gloria Steinem, after she had went undercover as a Playboy bunny with the name of Marie. Marie stayed as a bunny for several days and recorded everything that had happened. The way men treated the bunnies like objects and with disrespect was what the piece focused on.
Well, first of all, you had to pay for your costume. You had to, rent your costume, give back half of your tips.
Oh my God.
You got, it was, the advertisement said you could get $300 a week. I never got it. The average stay was a month because it was such a bad job. It was, a disaster as a job. And I wrote an expose of being about the working conditions.
That was one of the eye-openers for Steinem around this time, that what had happened to her personally was happening to women all around. She could relate to the population of women.
The predominant reaction to the women's movement was ridicule. It took us a long time to be taken seriously enough to be opposed.
Took a major role in the women's movement in 1971 when she co-founded the Women's Action Alliance with Brenda Thane. as well as created the National Women's Political Caucus. 1971 brought a whole lot of change. Gloria had already been speaking about feminists to many, but wanted to get the word farther than her physical voice could yell. So it was written in print. On December 20th in 1971, the first periodical to be operated, created, and owned all by women was published in the New York Magazine. Some of the stories published in it included topics like a secretary is an office wife, how marriage kills love, don't believe him when he says politics begin in Washington, politics begin at home. Ms. Magazine was born. Gloria Steinem had co-founded Ms. Mag with other feminists. This magazine is known as a magazine that changed history. From the 60s to 80s, her work protesting at rallies continued. She made signs and led protests at topics like abortion rights, female jobs being equal to male jobs, and families being equal within.
Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Every time we stop, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs, mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
After Ms. Mag launched, some of her protest sign slogans were, "The point is not the choice we make. The point is having the power to make the choice. A woman cannot mate in captivity. Women are prisoners to their clothes." Over the years, the women's liberation movement, which Gloria Steinem led during the 1970s, accomplished many things. The Equal Pay Act was signed by JFK in 1963, and the following year, the Civil Rights Act was passed that prohibited discrimination of the sexes. In 1965, women artists around America were made into an exhibit and acknowledged for the first time as worthy artwork. In 1967, people could not be denied a job based on the fact that they were women. In 1973, abortion rights were granted for first trimester abortions in almost all the states. In 1970, the first Women's Studies department began at San Diego University, and in 1975, it was declared unconstitutional to deny a woman a jury service. In 1983, she was named one of the top 10 influential women in America because of her feminist work. She was said to be a great leader and to have made it because she understood the way men were and felt empathy for them. Most feminists at the time were anti-men. She also didn't fit the feminist stereotype of being somewhat boyish looking. She used her femininity as an advantage. She was educated, heterosexual. She also understood this change, like any other major change, was evolutionary, not revolutionary, meaning it would take time till it finally got solved. Gloria Steinem was part of something that was started way before her time and will continue after her life is over. Gloria Steinem is a leader with a legacy continuing today.